I buried my daughter's dreams with her, until a stranger's letter brought her back to me. My name is Clara Whitefeather, and at 83, my hands tremble with the weight of years, but my heart, it still beats with the love I carried for my sweet girl. The wind outside my window tonight carries a chill, like the one that settled in my bones long ago. Come, sit. Let me tell you a story that's lived in the quiet corners of my soul. A story of loss so deep it carved me hollow, and a letter that stitched me back together. It was 1965, and I was 42, young in body, but already weary from life's edges. My daughter, Lila. Oh, Lila was my starlight, my only child. At 19, she had eyes like the prairie sky after a storm, clear, blue, full of promise. She danced through our little house in the Nebraska plains, her laughter bouncing off the wooden walls, filling every crack with joy. "Mama," she'd say, spinning in her sundress, "I'm going to be a teacher, help kids read stars in books." Her dreams were big, bigger than our dusty town, bigger than the cornfields stretching endless under the sun. Lila's father, my John, was a farmer, steady as the earth itself. We raised her in a home built from cedar and love, the kind of place where you could smell fresh bread baking and hear crickets sing at dusk. Lila loved painting, wildflowers, clouds, her daddy's old tractor. She'd leave her sketches on the kitchen table, little gifts for me to find. "For you, Mama," she'd grin, and I'd tuck them in a tin box, saving every stroke. John and I would sit on the porch swing at night, watching her read under the lantern, dreaming of her future. "She'll go far," he'd whisper, squeezing my hand. Oh, how I believed him. But life, it has a way of stealing dreams before they bloom. It was a warm June evening, the air thick with the scent of honeysuckle. Lila was driving home from the library, her arms full of books for her college applications. She'd been accepted to a teaching school in Lincoln, first in our family to go. I was sewing a quilt for her dorm, humming an old hymn, when the phone rang. My hands froze, needle mid-air. A mother knows, you see, knows before words confirm it. The sheriff's voice was soft, too soft. "Clara, there's been an accident. Lila's car. A drunk driver ran a stop sign. She's gone." Gone. The word hit like a hammer, shattering my world. I dropped to my knees, the quilt falling, my screams swallowed by the hum of the line. John rushed in, his face pale. We drove to the hospital, but it was too late. They let us see her, my baby still as a doll, her face bruised but peaceful, like she was dreaming of stars. I held her cold hand, whispering, "Lila, come back, sweetheart, Mama's here." But she didn't. The days after blurred into a haze of grief. John clung to me, silent tears soaking his shirt. The town came, neighbors with casseroles, pastors with prayers, but nothing filled the hole. Lila's funeral was under that same June sky, too blue, too cruel. I laid her favorite wildflowers on her casket, daisies and lupines, and whispered, "I'll keep your dreams, baby." John planted a rosebush by her grave, its thorns sharp as our pain. We buried her dreams with her, or so I thought. The house grew quiet, no more laughter, no sketches on the table. John aged overnight, his hair graying, his shoulders stooped. I'd find him staring at Lila's room, untouched, her books, her paints, her sundress still hanging. "Clara," he'd say, voice breaking, "how do we live without her?" I had no answer, just held him as we wept. I couldn't stay still. Grief was a weight, crushing if I sat too long. So I started volunteering, at the church, then the library where Lila loved. I'd read to kids, watching their eyes light up like hers, but every page turned stabbed me. "Miss Clara," they'd say, "you tell stories like magic." Magic? It was survival, pouring Lila's love into others. Years passed, 10, then 20. John's heart gave out in 78, leaving me alone at 55. I sold the farm, moved to a small apartment in town, took a job as a librarian's aide. The tin box of Lila's sketches came with me, opened only on her birthday. I'd trace her flowers, whispering, "You'd be proud, girl." The pain dulled, but never left, like a bruise you forget until you press it. In the 80s, I joined a grief group, sharing Lila's story with other mothers. "You're strong, Clara," they'd say. Strong? I was hollow, held together by routine. I'd walk by her rose bush at the cemetery, now wild and sprawling, and pray, "God, let her dreams live somewhere." Letters came from her old classmates, condolences, memories of her laugh. I kept them in the tin, next to her art. By my 60s, I trained as a community aide, helping elderly folks with errands, meals. It felt right, caring for others like I couldn't for Lila. The town knew me as Aunt Clara, the woman with kind eyes and sad smiles. Kids grew up, called me Grandma, and I'd bake them Lila's cookies, telling stories of a girl who loved stars. The 90s brought change, computers, emails. I learned slow, helped by a neighbor's son. "You're a natural, Clara," he'd laugh. I'd email old friends, share Lila's memory. One day, a letter arrived. Not email, real paper, yellowed, postmarked 1985, but lost in mail systems. My hand shook as I opened it, addressed to Mrs. Whitefeather, librarian. "Dear Clara," it began, "you don't know me, but your daughter Lila changed my life." The writer, a woman named Margaret, claimed Lila inspired her teaching career. My heart stopped. A stranger. How? The letter described a day in 64, Lila tutoring at the library, helping Margaret, a shy teen, read poetry. "She said I could be anything," Margaret wrote. "I'm a teacher now because of her." Tears fell, smudging ink. Lila's dreams. Alive in someone else? I clutched the letter, rereading, heart racing. Margaret lived states away, wanted to meet. Was this real? A piece of my girl, returned after decades? Tell me, dear friends, if a stranger carried your child's light years after you lost them, would you chase that spark or fear it might burn? Share your heart in the comments below. I need your wisdom. That night, I sat by the window, moonlight spilling over the tin box. I wrote back, hands trembling, inviting Margaret to visit. Could she bring Lila back, even a little? The weight was agony, hope, and dread tangled like thorns. The moonlight's soft tonight, isn't it? Like it's listening, too, casting silver over memories I thought I'd buried deep. I'm Clara Whitefeather, 83 now, and that letter from Margaret. It was like a crack in the earth, letting a little of Lila's light shine back into my world. But light can burn as much as it warms, can't it? Let me take you further, into the days that followed, when hope and sorrow danced so close I could hardly tell them apart. After writing back to Margaret, I waited weeks, each day heavier than the last. My apartment felt too small, the walls pressing in with Lila's absence. I'd sit by the window, clutching that yellowed letter, rereading her words. Your daughter changed my life. Changed how, I wondered. Lila, my dreamer, gone at 19, yet somehow touching a stranger. I'd open the tin box, spread her sketches across the table, wildflowers, the old tractor, a sketch of me smiling. You're still teaching, aren't you, baby? I'd whisper, tears blurring the pencil lines. Margaret's reply came in spring of 1995. My hands shook as I tore open the envelope. Dear Clara, she wrote, I'd love to visit. I teach in Minneapolis now, but I'll come to Nebraska next month. Lila's kindness gave me courage. Let me thank you in person. Minneapolis wasn't far, yet it felt like worlds away. I told my daughter Ruth, now 40, a mother herself. "Mom," she said, eyes soft, "this could be healing, or it could hurt more." She was right. Hope's a fragile thing, like a bird's wing, beautiful but easily broken. I busied myself, volunteering at the community center, helping seniors with meals, reading to kids. "Miss Clara, you got magic stories," one boy said, his grin like Lila's. I'd smile, but my mind was on Margaret. What would she look like? Would she carry Lila's spark? The night before her visit, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my couch, the tin box open, touching Lila's sundress folded inside. "Is this you, sweetheart?" I asked the quiet. The clock ticked. No answer but my heartbeat. Margaret arrived on a Saturday, the air sweet with blooming lilacs. I opened the door to a woman in her late 40s, brown hair streaked gray, eyes warm but nervous. She carried a small canvas, a painting of wildflowers, so like Lila's. "Clara?" she said, voice trembling. I nodded, throat tight, and we hugged like old friends, though strangers. "Come in," I managed, leading her to the kitchen table, where I'd laid out tea and Lila's sketches. She sat, clutching the canvas. "I painted this because of Lila," she started, tears welling. She told me her story. In 1964, she was 16, shy from a poor family, struggling with reading. Lila tutored her at the library, patient, encouraging. "She read me poetry," Margaret said, "and told me I could be a teacher, even when I didn't believe it. She gave me a book, Emily Dickinson, and said, 'You're stronger than you know.'" My heart clenched. Lila's book, the one she'd carried everywhere. Margaret went on. That book pushed her to finish school, become a teacher. "I teach kids now, kids like me, because Lila saw me." I cried then, silent tears dripping into my tea. "She was special," I whispered. Margaret nodded, pulling out a photo, her with her students, smiling. "This is her legacy, Clara. Every lesson I give, it's hers, too." We talked hours till the sun dipped low, casting gold through the window. I showed her Lila's sketches, told her of the accident, the drunk driver, the hospital, the casket covered in wildflowers. Margaret listened, hand on mine. "I'm sorry," she said, "but she's not gone. I feel her when I teach." Those words, they were a balm, but they stung too. Lila's dreams lived, but not in her. That night, after Margaret left, I sat by the rosebush at Lila's grave. "You're still out there, aren't you?" I whispered. The wind rustled, soft as her laugh. I went home, wrote in my journal, something I'd started after John's death. Lila's light shines in others, but I miss her hands, her voice. Grief was strange now, less sharp, but deeper, like a river carving stone. Margaret and I wrote often after. She'd send photos, her classroom, kids holding books, even invited me to a school event in '96. I went, heart pounding, seeing her teach. A girl read a poem aloud, voice strong, and I saw Lila in her confidence. I clapped, tears streaming, Margaret hugging me after. "This is for her," she whispered. I nodded, too choked to speak. Back home, I shared the story with my grief group. "Clara, that's a miracle," one woman said. Miracle? Maybe. But it hurt too, knowing Lila's dreams bloomed elsewhere while I mourned. Ruth noticed my quiet. "Mom, you're carrying her forward," she said. I tried to believe it. The years rolled on, 2000s came, my 70s crept in. Joints ached, but I kept helping at the center, baking for kids, telling Lila's stories. "Your daughter sounds amazing," folks said. She was. But the letter, Margaret's visit, it stirred something restless. I'd dream of Lila, young and laughing, then wake to silence. In 2010, another letter came, from Margaret's daughter, Anna, now a teacher too. "My mom told me about Lila," she wrote. I named my classroom Lila's Library in her honor. A photo showed a room with wildflower murals, books stacked high. I sobbed, clutching it. Lila's dreams, not buried but growing, like seeds scattered far. Tell me, dear hearts, if a piece of your lost loved one lived on in strangers, would you chase every trace or let some rest in peace? Share your thoughts below. Your stories keep me going. By 2015, my health faltered. Heart palpitations, doctor's orders to slow down. Ruth moved closer, her grandkids my joy. "Grandma Clara, tell us about Aunt Lila," they'd beg. I'd pull out the tin box, show sketches, Margaret's letters. "She's in the stars," I'd say, pointing skyward. Their eyes lit up, and for a moment, Lila was there. The beloved grandma tapes started then, Ruth recording my stories for family. "Mom, these are gold," she said. A friend suggested YouTube. "Share Lila's light," she urged. Hesitant, I let Ruth post one, my voice, slow and cracked, telling of the letter. Comments came. "Clara, you're my grandma too." My heart swelled, Lila reaching further. Margaret passed in 2018, cancer taking her swift. Her daughter Anna wrote, "Mom wanted you to have this." A package arrived, Lila's old poetry book, margins filled with Margaret's notes. I held it, smelling the pages, feeling Lila's fingers. "You're still teaching, baby," I whispered. Now, at 83, I record weekly, voice weaker but spirit strong. Lila's dreams live, in classrooms, in stories, in me. The letter wasn't just paper, it was her calling me to carry on. The years after Margaret's passing, they settled over me like dust on an old book, soft but heavy, filling the spaces where hope and hurt mingled. At 83, my hands are slower now, gnarled like the roots of the oak by Lila's grave, but they still reach for her tin box, for the sketches and letters that hold her close. That poetry book Margaret sent back, with its worn pages and inked notes, sits by my bedside, a reminder that my girl's dreams never truly died. The wind tonight hums low, carrying the scent of prairie grass, and it takes me back to the moments when I learned to carry Lila's light, not just mourn her shadow. After Anna's letter in 2018 with that book tucked inside, I felt a shift. It wasn't healing, not the neat kind folks talk about, but a softening, like ice melting at the edge of a river. I was 80 then, my heart fluttering more than it should, doctors warning me to rest. Rest? How do you rest when your child's story keeps unfolding, pulling you forward? Ruth, my daughter, moved in across town, her grandkids, my great-grands, running through my apartment with sticky fingers and loud laughs. "Grandma Clara," they'd chirp, "show us Aunt Lila's pictures." I'd open the tin, let them touch her wildflower sketches, careful not to smudge. "She painted the world," I'd say, voice cracking. Their eyes, so like Lila's, sparkled with wonder. Anna kept writing, sending photos of Lila's library, the classroom named for my girl. Murals of daisies and lupines covered the walls, books stacked high, kids reading poetry. "Your daughter inspires us every day," Anna wrote. I'd hold those letters, tears smudging ink, and whisper, "You're still out there, Lila, teaching like you dreamed." Ruth saw me one evening staring at a photo of Anna's students. "Mom," she said, squeezing my shoulder, "you've kept her alive." Alive? Maybe not in flesh, but in spirit? Yes, I felt it. I started sharing more stories, not just with family, but with anyone who'd listen. The community center where I volunteered became my stage. Old folks, young moms, kids all gathered when I spoke. "Tell us about Lila," they'd beg, and I'd recount her laughter, her dreams, the accident that stole her. I'd hold up Margaret's book, show the notes. Lila said I was enough. Gasps, tears, nods. They felt her too. One woman, a widow like me, hugged me after. "Clara, your girl's my hero now." My chest tightened. Pride, pain, all tangled. The YouTube channel grew, My Beloved Grandma Tapes Finding Hearts Far Beyond Nebraska. Ruth handled the tech, filming me in my rocking chair, sage burning, voice slow as molasses. "You're a natural, Mom," she'd laugh. Comments poured in. "Clara, your story mended my broken heart." "I lost my son, too. Thank you for speaking." Each one felt like a hug from Lila, her light spreading through strangers' words. I'd read them at night, glasses slipping, heart full. "You're doing it, baby," I'd whisper to her poetry book. In 2020, the world locked down, pandemic keeping us apart. My apartment became a cocoon, just me, the tin box, and Zoom calls with Ruth's grandkids. "Tell us a story, Gran," they'd plead through the screen. I'd hold up Lila's sketches, tell of her tutoring Margaret, of the letter that brought her back. Their giggles faded to awe, and I'd cry after, missing their warmth. Loneliness crept in, colder than winter wind, but the channel kept me tethered. I recorded weekly, voice weaker, but stories stronger. "Keep going, Clara," a subscriber wrote. "Your daughter's with you." Was she? I'd touch the book, feel her. One spring morning in 2022, a package arrived, no sender name, just a note. "For Clara, from Lila's library." Inside was a quilt, stitched by Anna's students, each square painted with wildflowers or stars, Lila's favorites. A letter explained, "We made this for you to honor the woman who inspires us." I wrapped it around me, smelling the cotton, feeling Lila's arms. I called Anna, voice shaking. "How do you thank a whole generation?" She laughed, soft. "You already did, Clara, by sharing her." That quilt became my comfort, draped over my chair as I recorded. My health wobbled. Heart issues, a fall in 23 breaking my hip. Ruth moved me to her house, fussing like I once fussed over Lila. "Mom, you're stubborn," she'd tease, but she'd sit with me, watching videos. "Beloved Grandma's a legacy," she said. Legacy? It was Lila's, not mine. Last year, Anna visited, first time in person. She was in her 30s, eyes like Margaret's, warm and steady. We walked to Lila's grave, the rose bush now a tangle of thorns and blooms. "My mom loved your daughter," Anna said, laying a daisy down. "So do I." We cried together, strangers bound by a girl gone too soon. "You're family now," I told her, and she nodded, hugging me tight. "Tell me, sweet souls, if your loved ones' dreams lived on through others, would you share their story to keep them close, or hold it private to guard your heart? Write your thoughts below. Your words weave us together." Now, at 83, I record these tales from Ruth's spare room, a candle flickering, the quilt over my lap. My voice is thin, but it carries Lila, her laughter, her dreams, her light. That letter from Margaret wasn't just paper. It was a bridge, bringing my girl back through classrooms, quilts, strangers' lives. I see her in every wildflower, every child's smile, every comment on my videos. If this story stirred your heart, if you've ever lost someone and found them again in unexpected ways, like this video, share your own journey in the comments, and subscribe to Beloved Grandma channel for more whispers from a life that's loved and lost. Hold your dear ones tight tonight, my friends. Their dreams might be waiting to find you, too.